Welcome back to the Sound Garage.
That was so in sync.
I like that. I'm
all right.
Seer.
I'm Zope.
I'm Jen.
Yeah, we're the Sound Garage. Today we're talking about SOS. So basically, we can just get straight into it. I feel like people don't want to waste time here. So, what were your guys' favorite moments on the album? I feel like that's probably the best way to go about here.
Do you want to start with your favorite parts of the album?
Yeah.
There's too many songs to go song by song.
It's pretty hard to go song by song. But I mean, I really appreciated all the little Trav production things that went on. That always was an appreciation that I had for everything. It was cool. The songs going from love song to that indie like alt song and kind of going all over the place while also staying very contained. I thought she did that very well, and we'll get into that as we go through our ratings. But just for two things like that, those were the overall things that really stuck out to me. And then if we're going to talk about favorite songs, there's some
give
good
like
stuff.
A top three at least.
But I'm just going to give my number one because it's Far. Far was a standout track. We'll get into why later on, but everything in that song is done perfectly.
I said sonically that's my second favorite.
Cool. Okay.
I said the instrumental production bars and flow change from rapping to singing is like insane.
She did that so well.
Yeah, it was like the best of like I think, but my favorite is Snooze.
Snooze is a great
And
pick.
I said that because the chorus is literally stuck in my head all day, every day. And I don't know about you guys, but like that's a huge factor for me. Like kind of what you said earlier, like I need to listen to the song to get it out of my head. So I gotta do that.
Is that our first thing? Is that not a perfect
replayability, baby?
I mean, after you, of course, talk about.
See, I think it's so hard for me to rate like songs. Like which one was my favorite? I feel like they're all like.
That's why
it's so hard.
Don't
like,
do
just
songs.
For normal, just like in general. So for this album, I'm trying to think like which ones did I really enjoy the most. But I feel like they all like there were so many that I liked for different reasons.
Well, which one do you think like? If you're going to listen to the album and you're just going to play a random song, you're not playing it from top to bottom, which one are you going to first?
At the moment, I think Ghost in the Machine, just because like that one was just scratching my brain recently, and I don't know, like the middle of the album I liked a lot.
We'll get into that as we go through the
what
categories.
What did you like specifically about Ghost in the Machine? What did you like? Because I remember we talked about this kind of briefly before, but I said something about the production, and you mentioned that you'd kind of like seen the same thing or like heard the same thing when you were listening, like. I said like it was kind of like an eerie. It felt like you were in like a misty meadow kind of vibe, and like Phoebe's vocals were almost as if she was supposed to be ghostly. And like, did you guys get that vibe too? Like,
especially once you started talking about it, and then we heard it as we were getting.
Yeah, because it was like talking about like the world and society, and then it was like, but I just need something to distract me from it, like to pull her away from all of that. I think it made a lot of sense. It was cool.
Yeah, and that's the song that touches about humanity, needing humanity, and the
AI
having more humanity than humanity itself, which is, really interesting for SZA to touch upon on that song. Maybe not the album itself, but I think in that song it's really interesting because you were talking about Phoebe being like a ghost, and just the humanity and the ghost imagery I think it aligns pretty well.
Yeah, I think I wrote one of the lyrics. It was like, robots get sleep, but I don't power down. I'm wide awake. I'm awake. I'm on autopilot. So it's like she's almost the robot in that sense.
Yeah, I've noticed that the imagery on some songs is super specific, and like that's obviously like a very intentional thing. And I think like Phoebe being that like ghostly person, you could either interpret it as like the song is literally called Ghost in the Machine, meaning she is a ghost, or she is a ghost in the literal machine of the AI shit. And I think that's kind of what more she's getting at here. Like, the machine itself is haunted by this essence of a human being, and like that's herself. I think, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I think like the machine is like the person, like you're on, like how she says they're on autopilot.
Right.
Like
it's like not a full person. Like, it's
not
like
fully there. Like,
yeah,
not,
that was what I was
like,
trying to say.
Society's kind of making us detached from that.
And yeah, I think honestly another way you could almost, just imagine what she's trying to portray here is maybe this relationship so far, it's almost like dissociation. Like she doesn't feel like she's part of humanity, and she's understanding it the way she wants to.
And she's getting so lost in it that she wants someone else to just come and
so
save her from it, rather than her being able to deal with it on her own.
And that's like a scare. It's like it's supposed to be kind of eerie, You know,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be eerie, it's supposed to be scary, and I think it does it pretty well. But
all right, well, let's get into the ratings then, so we can go more into these songs, because I think we all have a lot to say about this stuff. But I was gonna say we both have a lot to say about Ghost in the Machine specifically, but I think you've got a lot to say about other shit as well.
I mean, I was cooking with that, I think, just now, but...
Oh, you were? I know more so, like, we were talking about this earlier while we were listening to it, and you said that Ghost in the Machine wasn't one of your favorites on the album.
It was not because I think it's a low point on the album, it's because I think the feature is a little bit lacking, but when you described it, that she's actually not... It's like, instead of looking at it as, like, a feature, and it's like a ghost kind of coming in, that made me think of it, exactly, thing, right? It made me look at it a different way, so... That's what the discourse is for, though.
All right. I think SZA's supposed to be the main focal too. Like, if you don't want the feature to overpower.
Nah, but like the Don Toliver feature, I think I feel
like that song was more like a Don Toliver.
Even Travis kind of shines in his own regard.
That's what I'm saying.
Trav sound, you know.
Right, but okay.
Like, that was more SZA sound with Phoebe in it.
That's what I'm saying. On Open Arms that I will say is that Trav kind of explored a new sound that we haven't really heard him do before.
Him singing, and
which is like.
It was good.
I was like, that's just kind of crazy. Like, he was like not going like fiend, you know, like, it was like whatever, bro. It's kind of, I like both for whatever reasons, but this one was just like, I want to see more from him like that.
Yeah, I mean, even just the way what he's talking about, in the sense of he knows he's made relationship mistakes, and we, you know, Travis, like if you listen to Rodeo, and you know, he'll talk about those are the mistakes that he was making, and he's kind of addressing it, right? Yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see that.
I did notice that, because like the old Rodeo days, he was just wild and not give a fuck. So
yeah, and then SZA kind of says the same thing, because she says like, I hate myself to make you stay. She's devoted.
Both of them
are
reflecting.
She kind of has to let go, and then Travis like saying the same thing.
It's a reflection song, but the difference is Trav is trying to rebuild his relationship, and SZA is trying to get away from the toxicity of the old one. That's they're reflecting differently, but they're both reflecting.
I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about your scores, because we all have similar scores.
Have very similar scores throughout.
But I think we have a lot to say, so let's get into it. I can put it up one by one, so it's just like the replayability column, there's some column, instrumental column, that sort of thing, so we don't expose all of it at once, but. So right now, replayability column, we revealed me 94, Zoe 90, Nej 92. Yeah, I mean, we all feel the same way, right? Shit's kind of. I'm gonna put it on pretty often. As much as I think about it, it's coming on.
Just every song has that ability for me to want to listen to it multiple times, because they're all just very replayable with the way they're designed, and we'll get into that
whether
as we
it be
move on,
catchy or whether it be just like sonically pleasing,
or something that you could replay for the depth, and you could try to read into it, or even sonically there's multiple layers that every time you hear a song you could get to different, you know,
like, so that backtrack I didn't hear before, like those vocals are new or something like that, like
very replayable.
I didn't notice the Travis ad-libs until a couple listens, and I was like, wait, that's Travis in the background, stuff like that. But now, what do you think?
Yeah, I think just like the whole like R&B vibe of it itself like can go with just so many different situations. Like you can replay this album like doing so many different things, and then like we did do like a deep dive into the lyrics, and that it just shows that there's so much more. Like I didn't think it was gonna be as
it's not two-dimensional at all, right?
It
is definitely speaking on the lyricism, kind of going into that aspect of things. Like again, that'll be put up right now. I'm not gonna keep saying that. You'll get the gist. I think. Again, we all have the 92, 88, 90. It's pretty similar, because I feel like we all feel the same way. I don't want to speak for you guys, but I personally feel like every song has its own story. And it's like this album is a movie, and each story is like a scene in that movie. That's at least how I view it. Yeah, it's still all
connected. It's telling an overarching
And it's
story.
like the Kill Bill track is like she's getting her revenge, and then like Far is like she's trying to get distance from things. And you know what I mean? Like there's like different messages for each thing, and it's like she's going through the plot line of love, literally trying to figure out how to get revenge, how to not get revenge, how to forgive herself, how to acknowledge where she was wrong. Like that's literally, to me, she's just going through the process of love.
On the lyrics thing, one lyric that I liked in the beginning, it was like a
let's pick some lyrics.
It was from someone else, like it was in the beginning of the song, but it said, "Those who have forsaken their humanity, they like to patch their life with morality." And then SZA comes in and says, "I think I might be trying to patch my life with morality." And I thought that just really
is the next one like, but I need more sanity or something like that?
I think I'll look at it right now.
But I need more sanity. I think that's
Yeah, I mean,
I could be wrong, but listen, I think
have
lyric wise, I agree. There's so many songs on this that I'm like, damn. Like I said, for at least 5 or 6 songs that like the vocals or not the vocals, the chorus, the hook, everything that was like lyrically about it was super like catchy, well written, and just like thought
mhm.
out well.
It seemed like it. I mean, watching those interviews
Yeah,
really showed a little peek into the creator's mind for that, and you could see that she only wanted things that she knew she curated to
right.
her emotions.
One thing that's interesting
That
to note about one of the things that we saw is during the interview, which again we'll link that, so we give the credit to the original interviewer, but she basically was asking SZA about like, hey, when you were writing this album, like what was the writing process like? And she mentioned she tried to get a bunch of writers into the room, and
mm-hmm.
nobody wanted to work with her because she basically had nothing to show for it at that point. And instead of getting a bunch of writers into the room, she just wrote it herself. And I think that's honestly the better way to do it because she sounds more genuine. All of these tracks are like she had mentioned she wanted to sound smart, and she definitely does.
Absolutely
She
does, yeah.
articulates every like emotion she's going through, I think, beautifully. And it's like if you were to write it by yourself versus writing with a team, I don't think you're gonna have the same effect with the team. Like the by yourself is the raw emotion. The team is like, well, maybe you shouldn't say that for marketing purposes. You know what I mean? Like you're not
Exactly,
gonna
the
get the
raw
same thing.
emotion
Though
you're
it's
getting
very
out of this
raw.
album, you can feel that
Right.
she wrote it. Like it's what she was feeling.
Yeah.
Like
Even
from
just
her
how it's
diary.
like so like she's like, oh, I'm gonna kill my ex, and like, oh, I'm so in love with my ex. Like you could just tell that's like coming straight from her.
She's literally
Like,
going
she's
through
like
it at
going
that
back
moment
and
in
forth,
time.
like, do
Yeah.
I love him? I hate him. Like,
Yeah, I think that's interesting. What do you guys have for like specific lyrics that stick out to you besides those things? Because I have a few that I have like pulled up right now.
Do you wanna start it out while
Um,
I mean, I got one I could
yeah,
throw
I
off
was gonna say
rip.
if
I
you,
think
I was just gonna say the
My
my pussy
pussy
precedes
precedes
me
me
lying.
that's stuck in my head all the
That
time.
line is so catchy to me, and the way she says it, it's just like, yeah, it's an earworm.
there's a lot of self-awareness throughout
Yeah,
the album on, I'd say, every song, you know, if not every other song,
I'd say to be honest, every song. I
like
agree with
every
that.
song really she's kind of showcasing this this ability to be lyrically present with her emotions
Right.
and portray them in a way that shows us that she knows that what she is doing is kind of not the way she wants to be doing things a lot of the time, but there's a self-awareness very present throughout. And one of those songs that like the lyrics is unused,
Hmm.
and it literally just starts with used to being or used to being used like this, right?
Used to be used like- Yeah, exactly.
And that just shows that like she knows what she's been through and how it's impacted how she's made choices, and she's trying to improve from that. But I feel like you have some lyrics cooking up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know,
You've been
I know.
quiet.
You're just scrolling for a minute. Like,
That's
what
why
does
I
she
was
have
just looking
cooking
at all
up,
my
bro?
lyrics,
The
I'm trying to
notes.
pick which ones to talk about.
Just shoot, you know.
I mean, to talk off of the one you were talking about in Blind, she's like, my pussy precedes me, but before she says like my past can't escape me. So it's like the way like she was already portrayed, or the way that like the things that have already happened, just making her like she can't escape that. Like that's her image now
Right.
almost. And there was another one. I just like the rhyme of one because she rhymed like business with dish it and then wishes. And I was just like, my brain just was like, what?
I like scratched it low key. Yeah.
But and then in Good Days too, and she's like, I worry I wasted the best of me on you. Like she's worried about she wasted like her youth on this guy, and like just, I don't know.
It's introspection throughout.
Yeah.
You know, it is the self-awareness. All her lyrics kind of point to that theme, and I think that's an awesome theme to have for an album like this. It's very emotional too, you know.
dude,
Even like one when she's talking about the guy, she says like, who needs self-esteem anyway? Like she doesn't even care like about her own self-esteem. She just wants this person back. Who needs self-esteem anyway? Like my arms are still open to you. Like you can come back. Like what does it matter if like I'm lowering my self-esteem
got you.
because
Okay,
of you?
I see it.
Like either way, like I love you. Because like even in that song, she was saying that he wasn't a good person. She was just like, I don't
Yeah,
care.
it's like I
come
hate
back
myself
me.
to make you stay. Like push me away, that type of
Yeah.
thing. Like, but to me, I'm thinking like, who needs self-esteem anyway? Like, I don't need to think of myself as this person that you should value. Like, fuck my self-esteem. I know what's best for you. Let me just get you to have yourself like okay and not worry about my problems. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's how I interpret
That
this.
I mean, isn't that what music is up for,
right? Subjectivity.
So, I mean,
I think it's beautiful that we interpret it differently.
And I want to run this one by you guys, but in love language, right? She emphasizes that she says, "Help me understand how you speak your love language." So she's not asking somebody to be comfortable with hers. She wants to understand and be emotionally mature enough to, I think, have a relationship with someone else and be what they need.
If we look at the album cover, the title of the album, and just like the media that we kind of saw along with it, literally SOS, like save me,
yeah.
And I think and she's on a fucking diving board in the middle of the ocean, or like a plank, like a walking the plank on the ship type of thing. Like that's like she's at her wits end, doesn't have any idea what's going on. And I think like to your point, she's kind of meeting everybody more than halfway for their sake versus making them come to her.
She wants to be better.
And this is the progression, I think, from SOS to the end of the album. Like Open Arms is more so kind of her being like, you know what, now you have to come to me a little bit. I'm no longer going all the way to you. That was kind of how I think I interpreted it. And also same with Good Days. Good Days is like, now I'm here. Like now I'm picturing all the good days because I no longer care about you. That was how I kind of pictured
getting
it.
over it, to get the hump. Right. It's like the hump, but like it's very interesting because it's like the whole mountain's kind of going up this album. I mean, going up this mountain. The whole album.
I know what you meant.
The whole album is going up the mountain, and then the last like 3 tracks, Open Arms, I Hate You, and Forgiveless, are just like the plummet, and she's just like, I'm over that shit.
Yeah, I think the one thing I want to transition into the instrumental, unless you guys have a little bit more to say about lyrics.
I'm good lyric.
Okay, say what you guys say. I don't want to cut you off.
Because it isn't far. I have it written down, but I can't find it in the lyrics. But she says, like, she's talking about how do I deal with rejection, like that it makes her feel small, and then like someone else, I think it's the same guy who said that other quote in the beginning about humanity. But then he goes that, oh, that's great if nobody wants you to be free, and it's like far and it was like her being like almost released from that.
I remember thinking of that line exactly myself. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, if no one wants you, then you're not locked down to anything.
Yeah.
Like, you have the ability to just like do whatever.
Making lemonade.
Hey, you're not responsible for anything at that point.
Yeah, it's her learning how to make a silver lining for bad situations and how to use that for the self-improvement. And that's honestly the message of the album, I think, is really important for like modern women music.
Her progression of like learning how to be strong is like insanely, like I don't think many other artists nowadays have done it so beautifully. I don't know if that's like a good way to put it, but I think that's how I look at it.
Too.
Right,
like,
that's what I'm trying to say. It's genuine.
It's the whole album too, but then
and she's not being fake about it. It's not like, oh, it's all love. There's no problems. It's like I'm struggling, dude.
It's also like that's not how life is. Like one day you may hate that person, and the next day you're like, why do I love them again? Like why am I still sad about it? Like it's like a back and forth.
It's natural feelings, and I feel like she explores it in like a very humane way, as opposed to being like I'm a pop star and I live a great life that has all of these
perks. I
don't
care about you.
Right. But I think that being said, kind of going into instrumentality a little bit, one of the things about the lyrics I think is fantastic is the instrumentals are very simple. Again, blam. But I gave it a 95 because, and I'll explain this, the instrumentals don't have to be crazy to be fantastic. Like, they don't have to be like really complex to be like a good instrumental for me. I think I was explaining this to you guys earlier. Like,
well,
if an instrumental is made that is it serves the purpose of being a good like backtrack, but it also allows the artist to just like go crazy. That's, I think, the best type of instrumental. Like for this album, every single track, it felt like she could have done a bunch of different vocal preferences, whether it be a fast melody, a slow melody, or a fast rhythm, a slow rhythm, a high melody, low melody. Like she could have gone wherever she wanted to, and she did. And I think that was my point. Versus there are some albums that, maybe not SZA, but like there's some albums from artists where it feels like the production almost leads them to a place vocally.
Oh, definitely.
And it's like you're no longer being super
creative.
A box. Yeah, you're just filling in the blanks. Versus she was creating. She was the blank. Like she was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do what I want.
She was the artist and the paint and the canvas. Like literally all of it.
I feel like her voice is supposed to be like that, the center of it. Like it's her voice is carrying her almost, not in like a bad way, but like that's her main point. And the music just needs to go with her to let her do her thing. Like the music, it could be overpowering, and it's not. It's just doing what it's supposed to do for her to like show her voice.
Yeah.
And show what she's capable of.
So I'm wondering, obviously our ratings are a little bit different here, but do you guys think, knowing what you know now about my like 95, do you think you would rate it differently on my scale, or do you think, I know our scales are different a little bit, but like Do you understand why I gave it a 95?
I
Is more so
actually,
what I'm trying to say.
yeah, I actually incorporated your scale into my personal scale just so when we
Okay.
have this discourse, it's a little more formal and contained in
Nice,
that
nice,
sense.
nice.
But I mean, I gave it an 85. That's like playlistable,
Yeah.
like confident playlistable, which means I'd playlist a majority of these songs and
For the instrumental specifically.
like yeah, exactly for the instrumentals specifically, and it's not anything crazy, but what it does for what it's supposed to do, it stays
Yeah.
contained for the most part. It does reach out a lot of the time. There are, well, not a lot, but it reaches
It
out.
leaves the pockets for her to perform, and
Exactly,
yeah.
it
It doesn't
leaves
leave you
pockets.
bored. It's not like, oh, there should have been more instruments on it. It's like, oh, that was enough.
You have love songs. You have those spacey songs like the one
which kind of leads into experimentality a little bit. So again,
that's true.
Boom, it's on the screen. Experimentality on this kind of goes hand in hand with that. So continue talking. It just we'll loop it in together.
Yeah, experimentality. I gave it an 83, which is lower than the instrumental.
Close enough.
But again, still playlistable, which means that a majority of those songs I thought were experimentally out there, especially for the R&B genre. You know, in terms of R&B, it gave me, not that it sounded like Anderson .Paak, but in the sense of how she was using her voice to portray certain things, it did give me a similar.
I like the comparison. I didn't think about that at all.
Just from an R&B experimentality,
right,
standpoint, I think
a little bit of rapping, a little bit of singing, a little bit of hybrid, kind of
exactly.
Yeah,
and she had the harmonization. She acapellaed, as we were talking about. But yeah, no, all you know.
I'm teaching him music definitions. Doesn't know many. Experimentality for you. What did you say? I know you said obviously I see your score, but what do you think? 82. You're the lowest out of all of us.
Yeah. I mean, 82 is still a good score.
No, it's not a bad score.
I just think
well, none of us gave bad scores for any of the categories. Let's clarify that. Well, we also have the key, as you see on the screen.
He is here.
Yeah, I think it was good. I think for me to give something more in the 90s or a higher 80, it just would have had to feel like it did something. I don't know. I feel like there was nothing that happened that was like way out there for me. It kind of was just like, it wasn't that experimental. It was kind of like
F2F.
I definitely.
In the 80s, I feel like it was just
I agree.
It wasn't anything crazy.
My 86 is very reminiscent of that exact thing. Like there was nothing that was super out there, but I gave it an 86 because after. So I'll explain a little bit more about my listening history with SZA going into this category. But Control, I listened to when it first came out, which is I think 2017, and that shit was like pretty produced. Like they have a lot of like interesting effects and that type of stuff. There's definitely still effects on this album, but what I think was experimental about it was her ability to say, you know what, let's take a step back from the production and be more simplified, and let's try to go this
in terms of SZA.
This like stripped route of like, let me have some songs where it's literally just me and a backtrack of very like literally a guitar and a kick drum. That's it, and like she thrives on it, and so I think that risk of being like, let's take it a step back, paid off big time, and that's why I was like, experimentality wise, 86, 83, those are all like
playlistable.
I think, that's very accurate.
Exactly. Like I think mine was low, but I think it helped her like do better in those other categories.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't out of the park for experimentality, but
it's above it was good, guys.
Yeah.
It's above good.
Yeah, well, they'll see the key. They'll understand. There's two categories above them, but the last category is a very rare one. So, production. We all have almost exactly the same. 93, 92, 90.
I like the bridge and snooze.
The bridge and snooze.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it a 92. Literally the same score as you, minus 1 point.
Practically, yeah.
Not the same score as him.
The same score, minus 1 point. Listen.
We went literally like the same score.
Minus 1
almost
point.
The same score. Not
if you
literally.
Mine's the same score as theirs, just minus 2 and 3.
That's OD. Mine's minus 1, so it's very close.
We still have to.
All right, back to your corners.
So why did you give it a 93?
I gave it a 92.
92?
I gave it a 92 because there were essentially no points throughout the album where I felt SZA's voice was being overpowered by any instrument or any vocal. Exactly, and she sounds very clear throughout. When she's playing with her voice, it's still easy to understand her. And as much as I love classic rock and things like that. That was a real problem that they have with a lot of those songs because they were trying to be super experimental at points, but they just didn't have the technology and like the capabilities to get what they needed. But SZA is able to capture her voice exactly how she imagines it, and from a production standpoint, I think she recreates exactly what she wants. Yeah. That's why I gave it a 92. Like heavenly,
I said Far. I think I've already mentioned this is my second favorite on the album, but I said that because her like flow change from rapping to singing was super infectious, and the production while that was happening was like, okay, she's business. She's meaning business right now, right?
It's boiling.
But that was definitely, like I said, kind of the vibe on every song for the general. But I will want to mention one thing though. So I did point out for at least Conceited, Notice Me, and Shirt. The production with the 808s and the hi-hats are all very similar on those, and they don't really branch out in terms of like experimentality at all. They're very radio friendly is what I said. That being said, I think they serve their purpose. I love Shirt as a song. It's super catchy. I'm always singing it in my head. But the production with the 808s and the hi-hats just seems like it's like, I don't know. It you know what I mean? Like
I think she was having fun.
That's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't feel like she's taking the beats so seriously, and she's more just like, let me rap and have a good time. Like
she's
that's
like
kind of
de-stressed and singing. I like
blood stains in my shirt, new it's in my nerves. Like she's just having it. That's my point. Is like for me, I noticed that those were less of like a musical, like let me take a huge deep dive into my introspective self, and more just let's have fun. Yeah. And I think that was kind of my point of the lyricism aspect of things. And now I guess we're going to the production, but like that was my point with the production as well. Is some songs were a little bit more bland because of the non-introspective nature. But
I think that goes well with the theme of the album too, because it's like her going back and forth of being like happy and sad about it. So like those are like her high moments where she's like, yeah, I'm a bad bitch. Like
now I'm just dancing and having
she's just
fun,
having a good time. But then it goes back to her being very upset. Like it's like showing the highs and lows.
All right, I think we should totally just get into the last one and rip this apart because I have a couple things to say.
I have one good point to make about production.
Okay, do your last production point. Let's get the scratch.
You just mentioned quickly the highs and the lows, and it just came to me. In terms of highs, when she's feeling good about herself, it's really just her voice that you're focused on, right? It's the production is not the production is not lacking per se, but
oh gosh.
The production is not lacking per se on those songs, but they're definitely less of an element compared to her voice when she's like really feeling herself and trying to go off. But on the contrary, when she's introspecting within herself and she's like, was I doing the wrong thing? The production does come up. You get the little sounds coming from so
almost like she's unsure of herself, so other things are coming into light rather than just her standing up.
You finish my sentence,
bro. Y'all are sharing a weight. All right, Scratchability. This is my highest score for the entire album. I gave this bitch a 96.
That's my highest score too. With 93.
Yeah, you gave it a 93, and
I gave it
it wasn't your highest score, but you gave it a good score.
Yeah, because I didn't think it was unscratchable at all. I thought it was very scratchable, especially compared to the writing. Just not
it's pretty scratchy.
Not as scratchable as you. It's just some of the songs I'm not gonna put on all the time because they're not. They're literally just not how I'm feeling. It's not scratchy.
What I mentioned with like Notice Me, Conceited, and Shirt. Like I'll listen to Shirt probably more than the other two, but Notice Me and Conceited are my least played on the entire album for sure. The most played are like Far, Snooze, fucking like I don't know, all of those like kind of like singing songs.
The love songs.
Non-8. Yeah, I do like her 808 stuff. But I don't think I like it as much as the others.
The love songs. Yeah, I mean, scratchability was. I enjoy how she goes all over not all over the place, but like I said before, she goes places within her genre, the R&B genre, and she does reach out. She almost breaks the seal on some things here with the indie pop stuff, and she almost breaks it with the rapping sometimes there. And I think she does it pretty well, and I appreciate that. And that's scratchable. But some of the things personally I can't relate to as much, so it's just a little less.
You don't feel like a bad bitch on the album.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't feel like a bad bitch,
Listen,
so
personally, I don't know about
changes
you
your
guys.
music.
I was feeling like a bad bitch while listening to this album.
It puts you in the mood. It's just like you
Listen.
are like. But there's a few songs like the chorus like I wouldn't go back to just because like the chorus like the lyrics I'm just kind of
Yeah.
But there's only a few though. Like overarching like I think so much of her voice just stands out to me. Like that's what scratches me. The like what she does to change her voice to like fit different songs and the different ways she's trying to portray herself. I think that's what scratches my brain the most.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think a vast majority of the album is scratchable. So I'm good with my rating.
We all got overall ratings above 85, which
that's huge.
What's our all three?
I think it's fantastic.
89.88.
89.88, almost rounding up to the 90.
That's still, even if it got the 90 though, it would still be.
Oh, we'll round it up. I feel like the 80. We'll say it's close enough to give it that. Well, even if it's a 90, it's still playlistable. It's not going up to the 91.
Yeah,
so
it's
that's fine.
playlistable. Yeah,
it's high. It's as high as a playlistable album can be without breaching that next level.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to put it. Like, when I think of SOS, I'm not like, this is the most heavenly album I've ever heard in my entire life. But I'm definitely adding most of it to my playlist. And I have added most of it to my playlist. And heavenly / show a friend, our next level above playlistable, basically just means that, like, every song is, like, good enough to show your friend, I think. That's at least how I interpret that.
Yeah.
And this is one of those, it's like, most songs are good enough to show my friends. Not all of them. Most.
Especially because this is actually a point that we didn't touch on earlier that I'm kind of surprised about, but it is actually a longer album for mainstream, high value album.
That's what, 24 songs or
and
22
it's like
songs?
23, and it's like over an hour. It's like an hour 9 or something, right? Hour 8.
Which I will mention, I feel like that was a little bit like not as long as I was expecting. An hour 8 for 23 songs.
Yeah,
I was expecting a couple to be like an 8-minute, 7-minute kind of like extended, but no, they're all like 3-4 minutes tops, which I think kind of shows that she has the exact vision of like, I want this to be kind of like a story, and like each one's an episode of its own variety, and I think that, I don't know, it's cool. Like the longest song on the album is, I'm seeing 4 minutes 38 seconds,
something like that.
Which that's long-ish, but that's not that long.
That's short.
And that's Good Days, so
and
that's like the end. Yeah, that's like the end album. Like, let's wrap it up type of thing. Well, it's the second most popular on the album, which is good.
Yeah.
This is a crazily.
They're all popular.
As I said, this is a crazily played album. Everyone loves it.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone loves SZA. I think that's just like how can you not? Like, she's so cute. She's like a very nice individual. She has like fantastic, like all her lyrics, like you guys had mentioned, like you were a little bit surprised by the lyrics. You weren't expecting it to be as deep as it was.
Especially from like the chorus song. Some of the choruses like don't sound that deep, and when you're not. Like,
and then
really
you listen, and it's like, wait a second, hold up, she's spitting a little bit.
It's just because so many, mainstream albums are made to just be something you could kind of bop to, but this is a curated mix of both. And it is stuff you could just turn on and chill to, and you can put your laundry away. You can click
shuffle, and any song is gonna be like, I can listen to this and that type of thing. Like, but you don't have to be sad and going through a breakup, which is some albums I feel like that's the case for.
But you can also read through it, and we can get some good conversation out of it.
Well then, I guess to wrap it up, because I think this has been an efficient but yet thorough discussion.
This is how we do it.
What do you guys want to say as like final thoughts on this?
Highly playlistable album. I'd recommend it to essentially anybody who wants to just experience some thoughtful and beautiful music, just to really say the very least. That's really the best way to put it.
Listen, I couldn't have said it better.
But yeah,
thoughtful and beautiful.
Shout out SZA. Thank you for making a very, very great album. Thank you, and
shout out SZA. Thanks for watching the Sound Garage. I'm Seer. Here's my at music by Seer. It'll be on the screen. Don't fucking worry about this shit. Anthony Zopic. Anthony.Zopic. Jen.Amaro. Bye bye.